Loneliness is one of those experiences people think they understand until it finally settles inside them. Most imagine it as being physically alone, sitting in a quiet room, or having no one to talk to. But real loneliness rarely looks like that. It is much more subtle, much quieter, and far more confusing. It shows up when you're surrounded by people, when you're laughing at someone's joke, when your phone keeps buzzing, when your life looks completely normal from the outside. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of connection. It is the feeling that no one truly sees you, understands you, or recognizes the version of yourself that exists behind your own eyes. Humans were never built to operate in isolation. Our brains treat social disconnection the same way they treat physical pain. In fact, the same neural pathways activate when we feel rejected as when we touch something hot. To the brain, loneliness is not a gentle emotional state. It is a warning signal, an alarm meant to convince you to move closer to others. So when we stay emotionally disconnected for too long, the mind begins to reorganize itself in ways we don't always notice. And the first thing to change is our sense of identity. Who you are is constantly shaped by the people who mirror you, the ones who listen, respond, and reflect your existence back to you. Without that reflection, you begin to lose shape. Many people describe loneliness as a hollow feeling, a kind of emptiness inside the chest. But psychology suggests something deeper is happening. When you feel lonely, your brain becomes hyper-alert to social threats. You start interpreting neutral things as negative. A simple, "I'll text you later" sounds like rejection. Someone not smiling back feels like proof that you don't belong. You begin expecting people to hurt you, ignore you, or misunderstand you. And, ironically, it's this expectation that pushes people even further away. You grow quieter, more guarded, more distant. You stop trusting your place in the world, and the world responds by giving you exactly what you feared: more distance. Loneliness also affects the way time feels. Moments drag, days become foggy, and everything loses a bit of color. You may wake up, go through the routine, talk to people, laugh at the right moments, but it all feels strangely distant, like your life is happening behind a glass wall. You're there, but you're not fully present, and people around you rarely notice this invisible separation. Loneliness hides behind functioning. When you keep working, keep smiling, keep showing up, everyone thinks you're fine. But inside, something is shifting. The pieces no longer fit the way they used to. There's also a physical side to loneliness. Your body interprets it as a kind of threat, so your stress levels rise. Cortisol increases, sleep becomes lighter and less restorative. Your immune system weakens. You might suddenly feel exhausted by simple things, overwhelmed by decisions that used to be easy, or mentally drained after small interactions. The brain begins saving energy in strange ways, pulling you inward, making you want to isolate even more. This creates a loop. The more lonely you feel, the more you withdraw. The more you withdraw, the lonelier you become. But maybe the most painful part of loneliness is what it does to your voice. When you feel disconnected for a long time, you start believing your thoughts don't matter to anyone. You begin to silence yourself. You avoid sharing problems because you assume you'll be a burden. You stop expressing needs because you're convinced no one will understand. You shrink emotionally, then mentally, then socially. Over time, you can be in a room full of people and still feel like you are fading in the background, unnoticed and unnecessary. Loneliness also tricks the mind into rewriting memories. You start remembering interactions more negatively than they were. You recall moments where you felt ignored and forget the ones where you were valued. You reinterpret events in ways that confirm the idea that you don't belong anywhere. It becomes a mental habit, a lens through which the world looks colder than it actually is. And habits are powerful. They shape how you see everything, including yourself. What many people don't realize is that loneliness often begins long before we notice it. It grows slowly, like dust settling on a shelf. You miss a few invitations. You stop reaching out. You isolate emotionally because you don't have the energy to explain what you feel. You start believing people don't think about you, even though they probably do. And one day, you wake up and realize that the distance between you and everyone else has become wide enough to feel like a different world. There's another layer to loneliness that psychology rarely talks about. Sometimes, it's not that we lack people. It's that we lack people who understand our inner world. You can be surrounded by friends, family, co-workers, partners, and still feel like no one truly gets you. You might be the listener in every conversation, the problem solver, the strong one, the funny one, the calm one. People rely on you, but rarely think to ask who you are beneath the version they've created in their minds. And when you're never able to express your deeper self, loneliness grows, even in crowded rooms. Some individuals feel lonely because they've grown beyond the relationships around them. They've changed, evolved, or learned things about themselves, but the people close to them still treat them as who they used to be. It feels like being trapped inside a story you no longer belong to. Others feel lonely because they are too afraid to be vulnerable, conditioned to hide their emotions, taught to be self-sufficient. They build walls, then wonder why no one enters. Loneliness becomes both the prison and the protection. There is also a special kind of loneliness that appears when you lose a connection you depended on. A friendship fades, a relationship ends, a family bond breaks, or someone passes away. Suddenly, your world feels quieter, heavier, and strangely unfamiliar. You're forced to relearn how to exist without a voice that used to anchor you. This kind of loneliness isn't simply emotional. It feels like a piece of your internal architecture is missing. You move differently, think differently, even breathe differently. Everything feels temporary and fragile. Another surprising truth is that loneliness often strikes hardest when life is changing. Transition periods disrupt our social rhythms. Moving to a new city, switching jobs, ending school, starting something new, recovering from something painful, or simply entering a new stage of adulthood can make us feel emotionally homeless. The landscape shifts, but the mind still looks for the familiar connections that no longer exist. And while we adjust, loneliness moves in, filling the empty spaces. What makes loneliness so difficult is that it's not just a feeling, it's a story. And that story usually says something harsh. You don't matter. You are forgettable. You don't belong. No one cares. These narratives slowly carve themselves into your identity, turning insecurity into truth and truth into belief. And once loneliness becomes a belief, it's much harder to escape. Yet even in the darkest loneliness, there is something revealing. The mind begins peeling away the noise of the world. You start hearing parts of yourself that were drowned out by others. You notice your real desires, your real fears, your real patterns. Loneliness forces you to confront the raw version of who you are when everything else falls away. It's painful, but it is also honest. In that honesty, there is potential for transformation. Many people discover their real identity during the exact period of life they felt the most isolated. Loneliness is not simply an emotional void. It is a psychological landscape with its own laws, its own patterns, its own quiet storms. And the deeper you go into it, the more you understand that it's not about distance from others. It's about the distance between you and your own unspoken truth. Loneliness changes the way we move through the world, but it also changes the way we move inside ourselves. When you spend enough time feeling unseen, the mind begins to overanalyze every detail of your social experiences. You replay conversations hours after they happen. You wonder if you said too much or too little or something wrong without realizing it. You overthink every interaction, not because you want to, but because your brain is desperately trying to understand why you feel disconnected from others. It becomes a kind of mental survival strategy. The more uncertain you feel inside, the more you try to control the outside. But control doesn't create connection, it only creates exhaustion. At some point, loneliness starts to shape how we interpret kindness. When someone compliments you, you question their intention. When someone reaches out, you wonder what they want. When someone says they enjoy your presence, you struggle to believe it. Loneliness makes positivity feel suspicious. It convinces you that acceptance is temporary and affection is fragile. You begin expecting people to leave long before they show any sign of leaving. It becomes easier to detach yourself than to risk disappointment. But that self-protection slowly becomes self-isolation, and the walls that once kept you safe begin to become the reason you feel alone. There's a quiet tragedy in how loneliness influences communication. You may want connection more than anything, yet you hesitate to reach out. You rehearse messages in your head, but never send them. You think of calling someone, but talk yourself out of it. You assume people are too busy, uninterested, or simply better off without you. Lonely minds often believe they are an inconvenience, even when they have done nothing but care for others. You become the kind of person who supports everyone else, but lets no one support you. And after a while, people stop asking, not because they don't care, but because they assume you prefer to handle everything alone. One of the hidden layers of loneliness is how it distorts self-worth. You start believing that your presence doesn't add value to a room, that your absence wouldn't be noticed, that your voice doesn't hold weight. You begin to shrink your personality, soften your opinions, and silence your needs. You become smaller, quieter, easier to overlook. But this shrinking is not a reflection of your true self. It is a response to emotional hunger, the mind's attempt to avoid rejection by taking up less space. The irony is that the less space you take, the more invisible you feel. And the more invisible you feel, the lonelier you become. Loneliness also affects the way we interpret our own potential. When you feel isolated for long enough, you start doubting your abilities. You feel less confident, less capable, less motivated. Projects you once felt excited about begin to feel impossible. Dreams that used to energize you now feel unrealistic, childish, or out of reach. The mind begins to associate isolation with powerlessness, and that feeling quietly spreads into every area of life. You tell yourself you'll change things later, when you have more energy or more connection or more clarity. But loneliness rarely gives you those things on its own. It waits for you to move first. Despite all of this, loneliness is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something important is missing. It's a human need, not a personal failure. Everyone experiences it in some form at some point in life, even the people who seem confident, social, or emotionally strong. Loneliness doesn't choose people based on personality. It chooses based on unmet internal needs. Some crave understanding, some crave closeness, some crave meaningful conversation, some crave stability, and some crave the simple feeling of being valued. Loneliness enters when those needs go unfulfilled long enough. There is a strange truth about loneliness. It can make you more sensitive, but it can also make you more aware. You start noticing the emotional texture of people's voices, the subtleties in their expressions, the little details in their behavior. This sensitivity can feel painful, but it also gives you insight into the human experience that many never develop. Lonely people often understand others deeply because they spend so much time observing and analyzing emotional dynamics. Their minds become attuned to nuance. Their empathy sharpens. Their inner world becomes rich, complex, and thoughtful. But this depth often goes unnoticed because loneliness makes it harder to share. Another misconception about loneliness is that it can be fixed simply by being around people. But presence is not connection. You can sit at a table with friends and feel like you're not really there. You can talk for hours and say nothing real. You can spend an entire day with someone and leave feeling emptier than when you arrived. Deep connection requires safety, trust, vulnerability, emotional resonance, and effort. Without those elements, people become noise rather than nourishment. And when the soul is hungry, noise doesn't feed it. The path out of loneliness is rarely dramatic. It usually begins with one small moment of honesty. Being truthful with yourself about what hurts, allowing yourself to feel what you've been avoiding, accepting that connection is a need, not a weakness, and recognizing that reaching out is not an act of desperation, but an act of courage. The mind heals through connection, but connection first begins internally. With your own thoughts, your own truth, your own willingness to understand yourself rather than abandon yourself. Sometimes the first step is not finding new people, but reconnecting with the depths of your own identity. Many people feel lonely because they've spent years trying to be who others needed them to be. They forgot their own preferences, passions, and desires. They molded themselves into versions that were easier for others to accept. When you lose yourself, you lose the ability to feel recognized. And when you are not recognized, loneliness grows. Rebuilding identity is a slow, quiet process. It involves rediscovering things you enjoy, expressing emotions honestly, setting boundaries, and allowing yourself to exist without apology. There is also a powerful psychological shift that happens when you stop trying to avoid loneliness and start trying to understand it. Instead of treating it as an enemy, you begin to see it as a message that you deserve deeper bonds, a message that you crave authenticity, a message that your heart has been running on emotional low battery for too long. This reframing turns loneliness from a punishment into an invitation to create the kind of connection that is real, mutual, and nourishing. The journey out of loneliness doesn't require many people. It often begins with one meaningful connection, one person who listens without judgment, one conversation that feels genuine, one moment where you feel seen. These small experiences start to rebuild trust in others and in yourself. They remind you that you have a place in the world that is not defined by isolation. And once you find even a small amount of connection, the mind begins to soften. The world feels safer. The heart opens slowly, cautiously, but willingly. Healing from loneliness is not about filling your life with people. It's about filling your life with presence. The kind that feels warm, grounded, and sincere. The kind that makes you feel alive instead of empty. The kind that reminds you that you are not invisible, not forgotten, not irrelevant. Loneliness may be part of the human experience, but connection is too. And every moment of genuine connection, no matter how small, begins to rewrite the story loneliness tried to tell you. What matters most is remembering that loneliness does not define you. It is a temporary condition, not a permanent identity. You are not the absence you feel. You are the presence you are capable of creating. You are the connections you haven't made yet, the people you haven't met yet, the experiences that haven't unfolded yet. The world is wider than the walls loneliness builds, and your story is far larger than the moment you are living right now. And maybe the most important truth of all is this: you deserve to feel connected, you deserve to feel understood, you deserve to feel seen, and you deserve to take up space in someone's heart. Loneliness is not the end of your story. It is the chapter before growth, belonging, and rediscovery. There is more waiting for you than you think. If this message resonates with you, remember that you're not walking through this feeling alone. There are people searching for the same kind of connection, understanding, and emotional truth that you are. And sometimes healing begins simply by listening, learning, and allowing your mind to open. Thank you for spending your time with this video and this reflection. If you want more insights about the human mind, human behavior, and the silent things we all feel but rarely talk about, feel free to stay connected here. Your presence matters more than you know.